Hey guys, welcome back and thanks for clicking on this video. It's quite hot here today. So apologies for looking a little bit sweaty and a little bit hot, but that's just what today's brought weather-wise. Anyway, what I wanted to go through today was cost effectiveness and whether or not you can get away with not netting a property. Now here, this place is really low bird pressure. The only birds you tend to get are the occasional crows, which don't do large amounts of damage. Not like starlings and silver eyes and those birds that tend to flock together. What they tend to do is lean on the bunch, and they'll go straight for the seed a lot of the time and not worry about the juice or the flesh, and they'll poke holes in your berry, and that leads to a variety of problems. A weeping open berry, of course, can cause botrytis, which spreads through quite quickly. It can also be an encouraging environment for Acetobacter, which will start to turn the grape juice into acetone and give it that horrid smell, that sort of acetone chemically smell. And but crows, on the other hand, they'll come in, they'll nip off an entire bunch, and then they'll piss off with it and fly off somewhere else. So crows aren't necessarily a bad one to have around in terms of bird pressure, and that's all we're looking at here. And this is quite a large property, and a lot of it goes for sparkling. So I'm on 15 hectare at the moment on this property. A lot of that goes for sparkling. So if you can get away or avoid the netting process, then it's extremely cost effective, because it is a large cost to a vineyard. Number one, you've got the cost of the net itself, and then you've got the cost of the labour to put the nets on, you've got the cost of the diesel from the tractor and other equipment that you have to use to put the nets out and on, and it's a large process, and it's extremely costly to a vineyard. And I mean, you're not going to run any business without looking at profitability of that business, and to keep the vineyard viable and profitable, if you can miss out on paying for those nets in the first place and miss out on that process in the first place, then you're in an extremely fortunate situation where there's no to low bird pressure. You know, if you factor in how much a small murder of crows could take, which is what you tend to get around this area, and they're not necessarily interested in the grapes anyway, because that's not the predominant crop in this area. It's mostly sort of seed crops and cows and sheep. And not a great deal of fruit or cherries or anything like that. So in terms of interest, there's not too many birds that are willing to come out this far to get access to grapes. It's really not worth the expense of energy that I have to put in to get here in the first place, is my theory. But that aside, yeah, cost effectiveness is taking a look at the situation and not necessarily going with tradition. If you can get away with not putting nets on, then perhaps try not to put nets on. It can be potentially risky in the first year. Maybe the first year you do initially lay out the expense of buying the net and getting it all prepared on that chance that you may need it. Because if a flock of starlings or something like that was to come in and hang around, and you haven't purchased nets when they start to pay interest, it could take some weeks before those nets could arrive on site, if you're in a position to be able to order them in the first place. And then, you know, you don't want to be stuck in that situation. So one potential get around to that, I guess, is to buy the nets and then on-sell them as a new net, either at cost price or a second-hand price, you know, if you do happen to bring them out and roll them onto bales and stuff like that. But I mean, that decision comes down to whoever's in the position of purchasing those nets in the first place. Yeah, but just something interesting to look at, and from a cost-effective viability point of view, maybe consider monitoring the bird pressure in the area and seeing what sort of birds are about, and whether or not it's really worth putting in all that extra expense to put your nets on in the first place. Anyway, I hope you guys found this video insightful, enjoyable, maybe gave you some food for thought, something to think about, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.